Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to suggest something that we just don't do. But since there are just a few of us today, we can do it. While we're together, I want us to be truly here. Be in this moment. Forget what you were doing, what you're going to be doing. Forget all that stuff. Just be here. Now, I don't say that to be here for me, but to be here for you and for each other, because the only reality is the connections that we have with each other. I've been invited to be with you today, and that's quite an honor. And it's a long way from North Georgia to Santa Barbara. However, it is about 6 degrees in North Georgia, and it is so it's wonderful to be here with you. We're going to be talking about so many different things. You won't remember anything that I'm going to say, so I just want to tell you that right off the bat. But I can almost guarantee that you will remember a conversation that you'll begin to have with yourself based on what we're going to be talking about. Okay, Warren Featherbone Company is an interesting company, even if I do say so. Warren Featherbone Company, I think, has survived over all those years because on a regular basis it asks that question, what's next? A good friend of mine with the Boeing Company says that to me. He says, Gus, what's next for you? Well, I love the question. It implies there's going to be a next. And, some days you just wonder. Hope is always next, and we have to look for that every day. And that's a choice. We're going to be talking about this company called Warren Featherbone Company, a company you've never heard of, a company you'll forget quickly. We'll be talking about over 131 years, we have been in and out of crisis. And so we'll talk about some of the lessons we've learned through that. Secondly, we're going to be talking about a notion that you and I are not really independent people. We like to think we're independent, but we're not. We're very interdependent people. Where do you think this photograph was taken? It is Sequoia. My wife and I were there a couple years ago, and people always think, well, it has to be the redwoods, but it's the sequoias. What's interesting about the sequoias I've learned is that these trees, some of them are 3,000 years old. They're 310 feet tall. They keep growing into old age. I think that's a good model for us. And here's the amazing thing about sequoias. They only grow in groves, G-R-O-V-E-S, and only in Central California. And what is amazing is you'll never find one sequoia. You'll find them in these communities, just like we are in community today. And they are supported, these huge trees, by roots that are less than 3 feet deep. Well, that's an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? How does it do that? And you've got it. What those little bitty 3-foot roots do is they spread out under the earth and they connect with the tree next to it. And then to the tree next to it. And so they are supported in the same way that we are supported. So we'll be talking about Warren Featherbone Company, a company you've never heard of. The idea that we're interdependent. We've got these little bitty 3-foot roots. And finally, you and I think, live in a time of great fear. Nothing to fear today in Santa Barbara. But generally, there's great anxiety in society, I think, of what is actually going to happen to us over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I believe that you and I are going to evolve based not on what we're doing today. So whatever it is you're doing today may have nothing to do with what you're going to be doing in 5 years. But who you are today is 100% predictive of what you're going to be doing. It's the DNA manifest in new circumstances. Okay, Warren Featherbone Company. Warren Featherbone Company was started by my great-grandfather. This is Mr. Warren. He was the son of a minister in Vermont. They opposed slavery, and so they left Vermont. And this is in the 1850s. They went west. They went all the way west to Michigan. And that was as far as they could get. So they went west to Michigan. Mr. Warren was an entrepreneur. He started in a retail business. But he really, and I think this is the truth in philanthropy, he really had a heart for giving, and he found businesses to support that. What he wanted to do, and he was uneducated, homeschooled, he wanted to conserve land. Now, nobody was talking about conserving land in the 1870s or so, but he was. And so, with practically no money, he started acquiring property in Michigan. And by the time that he died, that was a very significant part of his legacy. But he did it for that. He started out with that purpose in mind. I'm going to save property for this state, for the citizens of this state. But he started businesses to support the habit. And so he went into the retail business. He then went into agriculture. So we've been in agriculture. He had a grain exchange. He went into the banking business. And his bank survived 100 years. And I was at the 100th anniversary of his bank in Michigan. And today it's a bank called Fifth Third Bank. I don't know if you know that, but growing rapidly. He started the Warren Featherbone Whip Company. I don't like to brag about being in the whip business, but it is what it is. And so we were in that business. You've heard that something went the way of the buggy whips. You ever heard that term? That's us. That's us. It's all you need to remember about Warren Featherbone. Started the Warren Featherbone Company. That company, of which I've been a part for many, many years, has been in and out of many different businesses. He started the first foundation ever in Michigan in 1917, which was, I think, wasn't the first community foundation formed in Cleveland in about 1912 or 15?
14. So this is the 100th year of the community foundation.
Right. So about that time, his big idea at the time was to create corporate foundations. And so with the legislature in Michigan, his was the first. So before there was a Kellogg Foundation or Ford or anybody, it was the E.K. Warren Foundation. And in it, there are two master properties. One is called Warren Dunes State Park. It's on the shores of Lake Michigan. Have you been there? Yeah. And they had something like 2 million visitors last year. It's a big deal in Michigan. The other is called Warren Woods, which is forest primeval. Never ever been cut. And that's his legacy. That's his legacy to us, really. The Warren Featherbone Company, one of his creations, started making this product. This is Featherbone. And I know you wondered why you got out of bed this morning. And why all those people who didn't come, what they're missing. This is Featherbone. Featherbone was made from turkey feather quills, wrapped in cotton, made waterproof. And it was the stiffening material in women's corsets. So our first consumer business was the corset business. Now, the term Featherbone became, our brand, Featherbone, became important in the language. We were all about brands, and we were all pumped up about Warren's Featherbone. So Featherbone can still be found in the dictionary. You won't find Coca-Cola, Pampers, or Kleenex, but you will find Featherbone. Unfortunately, it's right next to Featherbrain. And so you don't hear people talking about that. This is an early ad for the company. Our products were made from dressmakers, and this time we were a Michigan corporation. And this is the photograph from the 1900 national advertising campaign of the Warren Featherbone Company. And you see the turkeys and you see the product. We're almost certain that Budweiser saw that ad. But that's how it is as an entrepreneur. You get knocked off, of course. Well, things were great until 1938. 1938, we had a crisis, first major crisis. This is what the Chinese write our word crisis. If you do nothing else today, take this home and put it on your refrigerator. I promise you, you'll look at it. 1938, what was the crisis for Warren Featherbone? 1938, are you still with me in the moment of now? You're not thinking about what you were doing, what you're going to be doing. You're right here. 1938, the crisis was this. I want you to time travel with me. We're not in Santa Barbara, California. We're in Michigan. And it's cold in Michigan. And this is the annual meeting of the Warren Featherbone Company, 1938. And you're shareholders. So, welcome to the meeting. We've had another outstanding year. We've made a lot of money. You've put in a lot of money into this business, and I thank you for that. Now, I do want to describe a disturbing trend that we have just picked up in our crack R&D department. There's a company called B.F. Goodrich. B.F. Goodrich is not in the Featherbone business. They have been working with the Army. They've developed a new product called plastic, brand new from 38. Plastic came in two forms. One looked like a shower curtain, and one looked like Featherbone. And so our crack research department said this: there's a reasonable chance that plastic will make your product completely obsolete. Now, the Dakota Indians have a great way of describing these situations. If the horse is dead, dismount. That's what they say. You know, we never want to get off our dead horses. We just don't. But we have to. We have to, and we have to move on. And so we got out of the Featherbone business pretty quickly. We still have warehouses full of turkey feathers, but we moved on. And so we took the plastic, and used it in a new way ourselves. The Chinese are very smart people. They say crisis is everyday, an everyday occurrence. It is made up of two seemingly different meanings. The top character of these two translates literally dangerous. Crisis is always dangerous. 1938, we're going out of business. That's dangerous. The bottom character is almost always there in any crisis that you and I face. And you know already, without my telling you, what it is. Crisis always have elements of danger, and what else? Opportunity. So somebody in our company said, well, why don't you take your threat, plastic, and use it in a new way? And so we did, and believe it or not, Warren Featherbone Company, a company you've never heard of, took plastic that looked like a shower curtain in 1938 and made the first ever waterproof diaper cover or baby pant to go over cloth diapers, to replace rubber pants that were literally made of latex rubber. And so in those days, we had the latest, greatest technology in a new consumer product that caught on immediately. We almost forgot about those warehouses full of turkey feathers. We started making baby pants, and we made millions of dozens of baby pants. I mean, literally millions of dozens. This is something that changed that. What do you think happened to the baby pant business? That's right. Now, the few men that we have in this audience probably do not appreciate what disposables have done to improve life for so many. But we were in the baby pant business, and so all of a sudden, Pampers comes along, and they're simply not going to buy baby pants, no matter how good they are. So, if the horse is dead, what do you do? Get off. We hate it. And you know, you have to forgive yourself, because this is in my time, and I remember it so clearly. You blame yourself and everybody else for allowing your business to be so top-heavy in a product or service that becomes obsolete. And so the first thing that I've learned when you are in that situation, and this is good for everyday life, is you got to forgive yourself and everybody else. Best definition of forgiveness I've ever heard is this: to forgive is to give up all hope of a better past. Now that doesn't make any sense, does it? It does, really. You have to forgive yourself and give up all hope of a better past. You have to accept it and move on. So, we're getting out of the baby pant business. We get into the baby clothes business. We start making baby clothes. We make tons of baby clothes. In Gainesville, Georgia, for 50 years, employed 10,000 people, over that period of time. Our products are widely distributed in California and every other state. What do you think happened to the apparel industry? What has happened to the apparel? What's happened to the apparel in your closet? China. 98% of all the apparel today is made in China. It's not made in Georgia. 2005, we were about 15 years late in doing something about something we knew we had to confront. What are you going to do with a business that has domestic production where people depend on you for their jobs in a market that is moving production first to Mexico, then Central America, then to China, what are you going to do with that? Well, what we did, and many people attempted to do, was we made the process much more efficient. We became masters in supply chain management. Our customers were very successful because of the way we provided replenishment. But that only lasted so long. 2005, it's over, and we have to do something. I don't think I slept very well last night. I'm so pleased to tell you, because I don't lots of time. And for 10 years at least, I didn't sleep at all, because I knew we would face the day when we'd have to do something. So that day came, and we did the radically different. We did the radically different, which I will tell you. But we're part of what I think you know, a pretty significant national crisis. We've lost lots of manufacturing. You know that? We really have. And that's a problem. These numbers won't make too much sense, but the principles behind them are pretty sound. Last year, the United States, this is 2013, had a trade deficit of $716 billion. Now, what that means is, if you divide 365 days into $716 billion, almost $2 billion every day is going into our deficit. Now, what does that mean? That means that we are earning through our exports $2 billion less than we are spending on imports. So that, and you know, deficits, trade deficits, are a relatively recent phenomenon in the United States. Going back into the 70s, there were no trade deficits. But we've become very used to them. And what happens is these businesses, these industries, 75% of our manufacturing industries have trade deficits today. As they dwindle, people lose their jobs, they pay fewer taxes, and governments have to keep going. And so we borrow to make the difference. Do you know what the national debt is today? Anybody have any idea? So that's, I think, pretty good. In trillions, yeah. It's 17 trillion. 17 trillion. Well, is that a lot of money? I don't know. I heard it put this way, and I had this checked. This is accurate. If you think of a dollar as a second, as in 60 seconds in 1 minute, 1 million seconds ago was last week. That's a million seconds ago. A billion seconds ago was 1974. So a million seconds ago was when? When was it? A billion seconds ago was, a trillion seconds ago was 30,000 BC. And we owe 17 times that. I get weak, seriously, just thinking about that. Well, in manufacturing, the issue is, manufacturing is one of the three wealth generators. Agriculture and culture. Manufacturing and agriculture are very strong in California. Thank the Lord. But that's one of the three ways that any economy generates wealth. Agriculture, extraction, mining, drilling, and manufacturing. And we are losing and have lost a lot of manufacturing. Do you know in the 10-year period ended in about 2011, 42,000 manufacturing plants closed in the United States. 42,000. 5.5 million people lost their jobs in manufacturing, or about a third of the workforce prior to that. Just in that 10-year period. And you know, as we lose those jobs, we lose the middle class. We hear a lot about that. Lose the middle class, we lose democracy. So manufacturing is a big deal. There are signs that some of it we are picking up in some areas, but we need to do more and more of it. So, well, what is Warren Featherbone going to do about that? What are we going to do? Can you do anything? Sometimes you wonder. Well, the Warren Featherbone Foundation is in business for three reasons. One is to raise awareness of manufacturing. Secondly, community education. And third, to democratize philanthropy. To make philanthropy for everybody every day. That's why we exist. A few years ago, the reason I'm laughing is you just wouldn't think what I'm about to tell you is true. The Warren Featherbone Company, which is 131 years old, has a propensity for crazy ideas. And it just lurches out into stuff. And it doesn't know and it doesn't care. A few years ago, we had an idea in Georgia. You know where Georgia is, right? Yeah. We're not right next to Alabama, above Florida. That's where we are. The idea was this. We need to raise awareness of the importance of manufacturing for young people, because we need more people going into that business, getting the skills for it. The fact is, it's high tech, high pay. Our sons and daughters need to be getting into that. So we're going to have a manufacturing week. So we had this breakfast, not nearly as wonderful as this one, Ashley and I compliment you for setting this up. At the Ramada Inn in Gainesville, Georgia, we invited three people: Warren Featherbone Company, a technical college, which would be something like a community college, maybe, and a local Chamber of Commerce person. And so we were going to plan this manufacturing week. And everybody said, this is great. Georgia needs such a thing. So I said, well, let's do it this year in about 4 months. And we'll have an organization we're going to form today called Jordans for Manufacturing. We're going to do something in 400 communities in our state to celebrate manufacturing. We're going to have a statewide luncheon. We're going to have lots of people at our luncheon. And we're going to honor a great manufacturer. And I have discovered that if you get enough caffeine in people early in the morning, they just don't care. It's fine. Yeah, we'll do that. So anyway, this is all true. Meeting's over. We're going to have this thing in 4 months. I mean, this is ridiculous. Ashley's been working on this morning for a long time with Judy. And so that's what we're going to do. So we invite in the technical college system of Georgia. We invite the Georgia Power Company, and I saw a Georgia Power ad today on television here, which is interesting. And they were going to help us launch the first manufacturing week, and we were going to honor the Boeing Company. Now, why would we do that? We just thought in our little pea-brain minds that Boeing set a good example. Their example is this. First of all, do you know where Boeing is? Where are they headquartered? Yeah. They're now in Chicago as a headquarters, but they have principal operations in Seattle, correct? Boeing is very interesting. They employ a couple 100,000 people, but who Boeing really is that interdependent connection of subcontractors all over the world in the thousands, I think 26,000. And so they represented that idea of a sequoia. You know, we're going to stand together because we're going to stand in an interdependent state. So that's what we're going to do. We leave, but that's the vision. So that's the crazy dream. A couple of us go to Macon, Georgia, which is the home of Boeing in Georgia. And they had a helicopter unit there. Now, you know, Boeing is very important in California. You know that. I just checked. Boeing employs right near 20,000 people in California, 19,600 something. They have those 20,000 support 200,000 jobs directly and indirectly, and those are reflected in 3,700 facilities in California. In Georgia, we have one, but we thought it was important. So we went to the home of Boeing in Georgia, to the Holiday Inn, not nearly as nice as the facility, and we told them we're going to have a luncheon for the state of Georgia, and they were all excited. They said, well, what's your budget? And we said, well, we don't exactly have one. No problem. How many are coming to this luncheon? Well, the truth is, we had no idea. So these are two basic things you need in planning a meeting. I mean, I know that, and I'm not a professional. So anyway, we don't know who's going to come. I go into my default mode. My default mode is this. When I'm up against the wall and I have no idea what I'm going to do, I look around me and I say, Gus, how many chicken dinners will Warren Featherbone buy if nobody comes to this luncheon? And I figured about 122 was what we could afford. And so that became the budget and the expectation. We're going to have 122 people at the first annual Manufacturing Appreciation Week luncheon. And so there you go. Then I write a letter to the president of the Whalen Company at the time, Phil Condit, and invite him to come to Gainesville, Georgia to receive the soon-to-be prestigious. It's crazy. Crazy. But anyway, I send it. We don't know. We have no idea. Here's my expectation. Somebody in the public relations department will send us a 2-sentence paragraph saying, this is good. Good luck, keep it up. And I would read that to the 4 or 5 people who came to this luncheon. And we would go away in peace. And we would be excited. So time goes on. We find, using our vast political muscle, and because of the lighting in this room, I know that you know that I'm a large person. Or not. We find 80 people in the state of Georgia who say they might come to Macon, Georgia for a free chicken dinner, but they cannot commit to that. But they might. That's all we need. They might come. We're not sure what Bowen's going to do. And 2 days before the event, we have 80 people who said they might come. How many chicken dinners did we buy?
122.
We invited 42 people who were making baby clothes at the Warren Featherbone Company in Gainesville, Georgia, to come in their finest. We rented a bus, and we're going to go to Macon, Georgia on faith that somebody's going to be there. The more important point is a spirit is there because our purpose is genuine. We actually do want to raise awareness of the importance of manufacturing. The underlying thinking is valid. We've invited the right kinds of people to be there for that. And do you know, the first annual Manufacturing Week, this is 122 people, and you're seeing in this about 20 from the Warren Featherbone Company. And do you know that the president of Boeing does come? His name is Phil Condit, and then he presents the award to the people of Boeing, and then requests 3 plaques from Warren Featherbone Company. One for Renton, one for Wichita, and one for Georgia. And one of our smart reporters interviewed him after the meeting. He said, Mr. Condit, why would you come to Georgia to get this award? And he said, well, it's like this. The people of Georgia are actually sincere. They actually understand that the Boeing Company, if it survives, is going to survive because we have world-class skills developed with the brightest young people that we're in this together, and I'll go anywhere they want me to go because of that. Well, we are all pumped up, as you might imagine. Just a great day. Not long after that, they launched the 777. Have any of you been on the 777? It's fabulous. It's being replaced now by the 787. We have another crazy idea. The inaugural flight of this airplane is coming up in June of the year in which we had this luncheon in March. So we send a bib to United Airlines. This is baby's first flight. Our crazy idea was this. Wouldn't it be cool if on that first flight of this airplane, we gave away bibs, or United did, to people who had children on the flight? Wouldn't that be cool? Well, we send the bib off and a letter. Don't hear anything. And I'm used to it. I don't hear these great ideas. But I go back to my little CEO chair, my CEO office, and I'm sitting there. I mean, really, that is how this works in corporate America. And first thing I do is I talk to my C friends. All the chief financial officer, chief marketing officer, chief manufacturing, we're just talking. We're sharing numbers. We don't understand them, but we're sharing them. This lady called me from Chicago, Regina Fraser. She said, Mr. Whalen, this bib idea is fabulous. We lost it. Sorry, we lost it. We're not running one inaugural flight. We're running 7 of them. We want 4 dozen bibs on every flight, and we want you to be our guest first class. What do you think? I sit down and I'm thinking, is this for real? In that industry, in the apparel industry, and we were talking about that a little bit, that's a big day. That's a big day. So I sit down and in my little CEO chair and CEO office, and I realized I don't have any bibs. I don't know how to make that bib. It was an idea. Well, Wanda in our embroidery department knows how to do stuff. And so she makes these bibs up for us, and we go to Washington for this first inaugural flight. I get there. The first person I meet is Gail Holmes. Gail is a 777 pilot today. That day she was not flying, that day, but she was there to greet us. She had her son Grant. And so Grant gets a bib right away. He gets the first, maybe his first flight bib. And now here's the crazy thing. Gail is from I get this flight in Washington, D.C. Gail is from Elberton, Georgia, which is about 18 miles from my house. And I'm thinking to myself, Gus, pay attention. This is going to be a day that you won't want to miss. And it was great. It was great. An inaugural flight is exciting. They send a brand new airplane from Seattle, Washington to Washington, Dulles overnight. They're going to fuel it up, light it up, see if it'll work. We're going to be on it. This is America. And so we get on this plane. We get up to 32,000 feet, and the head flight attendant brings this bib out and explains what we're doing. If you have a child on the airplane, you're going to get one. And people sigh and say, oh, this is so great. I've spent $1,000 to be on this airplane, and I don't know where we're going or why, but we're having fun, and I'm getting a bib. So, people respond in different ways. I mean, we just know that. And so we start the first class, and here's the way this went. If you're a child that we can visually verify, and we know what children look like, you get a bib. Secondly, if you tell us you have one at home, no problem. We get out of first class, I'm completely out of bibs. Really, I don't know whether I've gotten into a plane load of Mormons. I don't know. I'm confused. But people, they get into this felt sense that somehow they're in the middle of a bib shortage, and then they go into a bib frenzy. It is ugly. I hope you don't see that. Well, I just want to get home. So I say, if you will send me a note on this flight, I'll send you a bib in a week. I don't know how I'm going to do that. No problem. But somehow we will. But I get 148 notes. I do ask everyone to send us a picture of their child wearing the bib. And so those pictures come, and these are the babies of the inaugural 777. Then we make a calendar. We go into the station business and we make calendars of the babies of the inaugural 777. We sell those out immediately. And then the most ridiculous of all is we give away trips on United Airlines that we do not control to people, for people to see their grandchildren. And and we do it through JCPenney Company and others. But JCPenney had 60,000 people sign up to say, yeah, they'd like to go. Now, about this time, you're saying, well, this is an almost interesting story. I want to say there's a point. Not too much to ask for. Is there a point? It was one of those things. I hope you've had a day like this. I've had at least this one. Maybe I'll have another. It was a magic day in that we saw juxtaposed 2 very significant images. One was this airplane, this $125 million airplane called the 777, technology for the next generation. That's what that was. And right in that same place, we saw babies who really are the future. Technology serves us. We get all hyped up about technology, but it's babies, children. One of our favorite thoughts is this: children are living messages we send to a time we will not see. Children are living messages we send to a time we will not see. If you turn that around, I find great hope in the reverse of that. And that is, you and I have been sent here today by those who went before us. And they're expecting us to step up. Okay. This manufacturing week has grown in Georgia. We honored the Milliken Company. Has anybody heard of Milliken? All right. Milliken is one of the most amazing companies I have ever known. They traditionally are thought of as textile manufacturers. Today, they are almost everything but textile. So we honored, and they survived. That's the point of that. We honored Roger Milliken, the leader of that company for 60 years. After that, we honored the Russell Corporation. And last year, this little bitty event of 122 chicken dinners, 40 on the bus, was 1,500 in Atlanta. And it's because people do understand what manufacturing is and these issues. And I'm so happy to tell you that in about, February the 2nd, next week, the state of California is having its third annual manufacturing awards luncheon based, and we've worked with California, and specifically in Ontario, and it's at the Ontario Convention Center next week. And one of the key leaders in that was Chafee Collins, some of you may know, and others, and many others. Okay, what's next? Well, Warren Featherbone Company. Who was Mr. Warren? He was a philanthropist. I really believe that. He had no money. He had a heart for giving. But that's how we got started. And all this stuff that has come, even the chicken dinners, started there. So he started the first foundation ever in 1916 or 17 in Michigan. And our thought today is to democratize philanthropy. We think that many people, not in this room because you know, but many people think that philanthropy is for rich people. Rich people with a lot of money. But the reality is, the real giving is done by people with modest means. They have a heart for giving. They give because they need to give. There's a young man, 17-year-old Coca-Cola scholar. That's a program Coca-Cola company has in, everywhere. But anyway, this young man said that, speaking of philanthropy, some people look at the world as a glass half full or half empty. A philanthropist simply wants to know who's thirsty. Isn't that a great thought? Who's thirsty? People get it. They really get it. So our idea is that the reason that philanthropy is not more broadly understood to be of the people, by the people, is that there has not been a mechanism for everyday people to give in an organized way that would empower them, to give them a new sense of self. And what we are proposing is called the Personal Philanthropy Account. In your mind, if you can think of a 401k account in business, this is the philanthropic equivalent, 401p. And the way this works is that philanthropy accounts can now be set up through employers, through payroll deduction, that then, at the option of the employer, can be matched. And those funds grow tax-free until the sums are such that they are distributed by that individual, by that one person. Not by a group of people, by that one person, to reflect the values of that one person and their family. the way we are envisioning this today, this payroll deduction, these funds will be accounted for and distributed really by any third party, just as 401k is. But what we think is the opportunity for community foundations all over the United States is for the community foundation to be that entity. And so you have at your place, this was just produced, the personal philanthropy account that describes what I have just said. And in Georgia, we are starting with the North Georgia Community Foundation, which is the organization of which Warren Featherbone is a part. And we have our first 2 enrollees. So I can say we have 2 people last week who are now part of this. And the way it works in our community, it will vary from community to community. Santa Barbara Foundation may have a different approach to this. But we hope that you'll take this approach and use it in a way that best suits you. But in our community, these funds accumulate at the employer until they reach $1,000, and then they are automatically transferred to the North Georgia Community Foundation as a donor advised fund for that individual, where it grows until it's $5,000, and then the donor makes grants from his or her philanthropy account via internet. So, wouldn't it be cool if in a world of 70,000 foundations, which is the world of today, that in a few years we have a couple 100 million one-person foundations where people can tell their story through giving in a way that makes sense to them, where employers can reflect their corporate giving through the matches into these accounts, reflecting the dreams of their employees. Something to think about. Okay. Warren Featherbone Company, we're going to wrap up here. What? Tell me all the businesses we've been in. Now, you've been so attentive, and you're all... You still with me, aren't you?
Yeah.
Featherbone? Look. Webster, yes. Thank you. Right. Yeah, see, all that stuff. This is crazy stuff. But that's right. That's who we are. That's what we've been a part of. So what are we going to do? 2005, after 15 years of knowing the day would come, we had to do something in 2005. And that something was the radically different for Warren Featherbone, which was to take the baby clothes part of Warren Featherbone Company, that division, and we sold it to a company in New Jersey. And New Jersey took those products and manufactured them in China, which we knew that they would do. So we had to think about, well, what's Warren Featherbone going to do? Because, I mean, we're still in business. We're still in business today. 2005, not very long ago, really, we were in this situation that I think is described really well by a good friend of mine, who says that the perfect life is lived in thirds. The first third, we watch stuff. And the second third, we do it. So little kids watch it and they do it. But he said that the highest and best sense of a person or an organization is when we teach. When we teach. And we had this thought, and we've had it for many years, that what Warren Featherbone was really in business for was community development and education in some way. And it took different forms over this 131-year period. So we were open to that idea, that we would do something interesting in teaching. We had been working with a technical college for many years about their dream for a business incubator, manufacturing incubator. And it would be at Warren Featherbone in that physical facility. And we liked that idea. So what we did in 2005, we invited 6 individuals, just people, and Warren Featherbone Company, who were open to the possibilities of education at Warren Featherbone in a new way, with no business plan, but just with the thought that would it be cool if we could do something that would be jobs-centered would be collaborative and intergenerational. Wouldn't that be cool? So, this group in Warren Featherbone has dedicated the physical property, the real estate, in a new way. And that new way is called Featherbone Communiversity. And Featherbone Communiversity is in what was the building that manufactured the baby clothes for all those years. Featherbone Communiversity, this is 128,000 square feet, so it's not small. It's on 8 acres on a freeway. It's founded by three actually, organizations. These are the people that represent them. The first is Lanier Technical College. They operate the business incubator, and they are supported by Georgia Tech, SBDC, Small Business Development Center, and Georgia Tech. So it's University of Georgia and Georgia Tech. The second founding member is a children's museum called Inc., and the third is a traditional university called Bernard University. Lanier Technical College operates the business incubator that I mentioned to you. This is one of their client companies. This is the director, and this particular company is in cabinet manufacturing. Over the years, it has evolved into today. It's principally medical device manufacturing. That's what we do. And in 6 years, this incubator has received 14 patents, 18 companies have been launched, $42 million in revenue has been generated, and 700 jobs have been created. All in that space that made baby clothes. And it's always been wonderful for me to think, if you cannot be in manufacturing, how great is it to be in the business of manufacturing manufacturers? So there's always a way. This is the interactive neighborhood for kids. This is the brainchild of this woman, Sherry Cooper, whose idea was children needed to learn about real life doing career sorts of things. And so she's created a village, a kids' village at Warren Featherbone that replicates in this village what a child would see in their community. So there's a police department, a library, there's a courtroom, there's a hairdresser, a bank, there's on airplanes and cars. And 5 years ago, she started with this, and these are some of the exhibits. She moved from a church. In the first year, they had a record year of 15,000 children that went through. And last year was 70,000. So it just goes on and on. Bernard University is actually older than Warren Featherbone, and today Bernard operates its entire nursing program. This is their entrance to Featherbone University. They have 350 nurses, 3 degrees, doctorate, bachelor and master's, and the same for occupational therapy. So there's a school of occupational therapy, school of nursing, theater, dance, and senior adult learning. It's all going on every day. This is an interior shot. We have the largest patient simulation center north of Atlanta.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And what people learn through these electronic mannequins, how to nurse and so on. We have public programs, something called the Masters Series. And the Masters Series is really wonderful. And this is open to the public. And what we try to do in 4 different programs is to better understand what a true master is. We affirm the masters so they get that recognition, which is important. What the community gets is a better understanding of what it takes to be a master teacher. Do you remember the teacher in your life that maybe changed your life? I mean, we all do. How do they do that? What is that? And so we need to affirm them, we need to learn from them, and we need to encourage young people to become them. So that's the thought for the Master Series. And there are 4 programs today. Masters in Nursing is the second. Entrepreneurs is the third, and the fourth is called Master Craftsmen. These are the people who actually build things, who put the roof over our heads, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. We have a youth group called Philanthropy University Academy. The Academy is 56 students this year, and it's about self-development for high school students. It's about giving back, so we have an exercise where they generate money to give back to community need. It's about understanding mastery, career mastery, and it's really wonderful. Our fourth program is coming up shortly, and that'll be graduation for them. So we've talked about all this stuff, and we've talked about getting off dead horses, so you got to get off that dead horse. You got to find opportunity in crisis. We have to get manufacturing back, but how are you going to do all that? And I'm looking at life differently as life goes on, and I'm sure we all do. What is it that we're trying to pass on, really? Well, for no particular reason, I discovered a prayer my great-grandfather wrote in 1960. It's just happened. And it was in an old file. And I read the prayer. And in the prayer, and if any of you who would like it, I have it printed, an excerpt of it. And in it, he says two things that are really amazing and so thoughtful. Well, one is, every day, so today is one of those every days, find somebody that needs your help today and help them. First thing. Every day, find somebody that needs your help today and help them. Second thing is, live your life in a way such that the example you set is not just a good example. More importantly, it is a safe example. Safe. That your example is safe to follow. Safe to follow. One of the best examples in my life to follow was the chairman of the Milliken Company. And some of you know that story. They were a textile company. They're the only company that survived outsourcing. They're not one of a small number. They're the only ones. And the way they did it was by innovation. They consider themselves today a community of innovators, and today they are the largest, so far as we know, privately held chemical company in the world. It was led by Roger Milliken, who passed away a couple years ago, and he was a larger-than-life person. He was a billionaire, won $1 billion, was a lot of money, all that sort of stuff, but he was never about money personally. He was just a genius. He was an encourager. He set standards so high. They were one of the first Malcolm Baldrige Award-winning companies ever. And he became my mentor. Now, for Gus Whalen to be able to say that Roger Milliken was a mentor is a stretch, because he was so different, completely different, everything. But some reason, he and I just got along. And we bought fabric from Milliken in those days, so we became friends. And as he became older and declined in health, we became very close. I went to his funeral, which was a day like today in Georgia, cold, a couple of years ago in Spartanburg. His daughter spoke at the funeral. Her name is Jan. She lives in Maine. And Jan talked what it was like to be a Milliken. What is it like to grow up in that family? Well, to hear her tell it, it was wonderful, and not particularly of great privilege. They had a normal life. And I've been to their home on Fairview Avenue in Spartanburg. It's a normal house, normal people. She talked about how she went off to college, and her mom and dad took her to the train station. In those days, going off to college was by train. And so Mrs. Milliken and the daughter, Jan, got on the train, and Mrs. Milliken got settled, and then he went back to the outside and stood on the platform and to wish them well. And then at the very last minute, he walked over to the train car window opposite where his daughter was sitting, and he wrote a single word in the dust. And she said, you know, that word followed me all the way to college. It has followed me every day since. And you think, what word would I share with my child or grandchild? But now I've got 2 grandchildren. I'll think, what will I tell Mason or Emery? What will I tell them? If I could tell them only one word. And you think of all the things that you could say. But what Mr. Milliken said on that day is so practical that as you think about it, you begin to understand his genius. He said that to his daughter. Get out and get in there. Do things. Do what you do. Get up early in the morning and come to a round table like this. See what we can do in this community that hadn't been done before. Participate. And that's the only way that whatever genius is in us, and it's there, it's the only way it can be expressed. Well, that's it for us. But I want to tell you, and I mean this, and I'm surprised. You never know when you get on an airplane to fly some ungodly number of miles. What's at the other end? Action. I have been so touched by you because you have been so in this moment. And Judy, I thank you for seeing this connection. And Judy and I have worked with Ashley over a long period of time to make sure this was right for you today. I'll tell you this, I would not say this if I didn't mean it. I love you. And there's not a thing you can do about it. Thank you very much.